everyone, my name is Matt Santoro and my channel is Matthew Santoro on YouTube. Nice to meet you. As you can see, Daniel could not be here today, but he gave me a shout to see if I'd be willing to make a video for him while he was gone, and I said absolutely for all his beautiful subscribers. Look at you looking nice. And since Daniel and I have a common love of video games, I thought that I would make a list of the most interesting video game facts for you guys. So without further ado, here are 30 fascinating video game facts. The first video game ever made was an unnamed missile simulator game from 1947 that was inspired by the displays of World War II and ran on analog technology. It was so primitive that they had to physically put overlays on the screen for targets, as graphics could not be drawn at the time. God, this thing makes the first Nintendo look like a rocket ship. There's a gene on chromosome 7 of the human genome that biologists name Sonic Hedgehog, or SHH for short. Who knew that biologists were gamers? Mario was actually named after the landlord of Nintendo's first warehouse, Mr. Mario Segale. The original name for Mario was actually Mr. Video Game, which ended up becoming Mr. Segale's nickname. Speaking of Mario, he's actually appeared in over 120 video games. That's one busy plumber. Pac-Man was invented by designer Toru Awatini while he was eating pizza. In Japan, Puck means munching, so they actually named him Puck-Man, but changed his name to Pac-Man when he came to America. Not that that name really makes that much more sense. The PlayStation was originally designed as a Nintendo console, with Sony to make the inside components. When Nintendo changed their minds about making the console, Sony decided to go ahead and make the PlayStation anyways. But you know, it's not like the PlayStation went anywhere or anything. Good call, Nintendo! The video game industry is valued at a whopping $70 billion worldwide. 2/3 of American households play games, 60% are male, 40% female. Ladies, if you want to get a dude, just tell him you play video games. You'll have him like that. The 1990 game Golden Axe for Sega was voiced entirely by prisoners on death row. That's creepy. Due to the popularity of the Nintendo game Mario Brothers in 1983, there was an explosion of the name Mario given to children around that time. It's probably a good thing that the Beetlejuice game wasn't as popular at the time, or there'd be a lot of kids changing their names around now. Did you ever wonder in the original Legend of Zelda game why you could only hold 255 rupees maximum? Well, that's because that's the maximum value of an unsigned 8-bit integer, and to hold more would have required more memory, which just wasn't doable for the technology at the time. The most famous cheat code for video games of all time is up up down down left right BA. You might recognize that. This was made popular by the game Contra, which gave the player a full set of power-ups and is called the Konami code or the Gamer's code. The first gaming console to ever ship with an internal memory was the Sega Saturn, and it shipped with about 1 megabyte of memory. To put that into perspective, the PlayStation 4 has a 500 gig hard drive, which is about 512,000 megabytes. Consoles offer a bit more storage these days. In the original arcade version of Donkey Kong, Mario was called Jumpman, and he was a carpenter, not a plumber. The damsel in distress at the top, well, her name is now called Pauline, but at the time she was just called Lady. Those Japanese, they're just so clever with their names. Mega Man is known as Rockman in Japan. The name was changed from Rockman to Mega Man when it came to America because in America, rock is slang for, you know, crack cocaine. The best-selling video game consoles of all time are the PlayStation 2 and the Nintendo DS, both tied with about 155 million units sold. The highest grossing game of all time is actually World of Warcraft, bringing in a whopping $10 billion over its lifetime. That's a lot of nerd money. Atari is a Japanese word that actually means success. A man named Fayez Chopdat went to jail for 4 months in the UK for playing Tetris on his phone during a flight. I guess when they say turn off all electrical devices, they mean it. The Xbox was actually originally named the Direct Xbox, but Microsoft decided to change that because, well, Direct Xbox just kind of sounds stupid. Final Fantasy actually got its name because its developer intended it to be his last game after spending all of Square's money on other unsuccessful video game projects. See, if you want to make an omelet, sometimes you gotta crack some eggs. Lara Croft's inflated breast size was actually the result of the developer accidentally increasing the model's chest size to 150% of the intended size. Interestingly, after it was discovered, the other designers persuaded that designer to keep that size the way it is. I wonder why. Matt Damon actually refused to be in the Bourne Conspiracy video game because he thought it was too violent. But shooting guys in the head and breaking their necks on film is okay. The creator of Pokemon, Satoshi Tajiri, actually got the idea for the game after collecting caterpillars as a child and watching them change into butterflies. Statistically, doctors that spend at least 3 hours a week playing video games make 37% less errors during surgery. Yeah, you better hope your doctor is a gamer. GoldenEye 007's multiplayer mode contains 3 Bond actors as playable characters. characters: Roger Moore, Sean Connery, and Timothy Dalton. But the only way to select them is to unlock them using a cheat device. A Texas Instruments TI-83 calculator has more graphics processing power than the Commodore 64 had. In fact, some basic Commodore 64 games can actually be programmed into that calculator. It'll give you something to do during math class. Remember back in the day when Nintendo used to put the Nintendo seal of approval on their video games? Well, that wasn't just marketing, that was actually a real thing. In order to maintain quality, Nintendo used to limit their third-party publishers to only releasing 5 video games a year, and those games would get the Nintendo seal of approval. The first video game to ever feature multiple endings based on gameplay was Castlevania 2 for the original Nintendo. It's only humanly possible to push a button on a controller 16 times per second. That's actually a lot. This record has actually been set by Toshiyuki Tashihaki, a Japanese gamer. If you cheated while playing the Sega version of Doom, at the end of the game you're actually brought to a fake DOS prompt. Players couldn't quit out of it, and the only way to get out of it was to reset the console. But if you didn't cheat, you got an extra cutscene. And finally, Super Mario for the SNES actually took 29,000 hours to program. But it was worth it because it went on to sell 17 million copies and became one of the best-selling games of its generation. And that's it. Thanks to Daniel for having me on his channel once again, and if you guys like this video, please subscribe to my channel. There'll be a clickable link on the screen and in the description. I make top 10 and top 20 style videos like this one all the time on my channel, and sometimes I mix it up with opinion and advice videos. Thanks for watching this video, and I will see you guys on my channel.